What's up, guys? This is Jensen and welcome to another video. So obviously one of the quarterbacks who's on the trading block right now is Andy Dalton, but the problem is that there doesn't seem to be a logical destination for Andy Dalton right now. Most of the starting jobs in the NFL at the quarterback position are taken up right now, so it doesn't seem like there are a lot of suitors for Andy Dalton right now. That's why I think it's best for the Cincinnati Bengals and Andy Dalton to stick it out for one more year. I think the Bengals should keep Andy Dalton. I think for the Bengals, this makes a lot of sense. Obviously, Andy Dalton's been a big part of their success in the past. The Bengals are a perennial playoff team with Dalton at the helm at their peak years. So I think if you're the Cincinnati Bengals and you're about to draft Joe Burrow, #1 overall, everyone thinks this kid's going to be a stud. He has all the right things when we're looking at not just his physical abilities, but also the fact that he's such a good leader. It seems like this dude's destined to become a top 10 NFL quarterback. And I think that if you have a guy like that and you're the Cincinnati Bengals, I think that Andy Dalton, we all know he's a good team player. I think that Dalton would be the perfect mentor to Joe Burrow. And if you're the Cincinnati Bengals and you have guys like AJ Green, John Ross, and Tyler Boyd at the wide receiver positions, Joe Mixon at running back, it seems like Joe Burrow could have a ton of success with this team. But I think that if you're the Bengals, you want Joe Burrow to have the perfect chance of success. You want to increase Joe Burrow's chances of becoming a star as much as possible. And if keeping Andy Dalton does that and Andy Dalton can help mentor Burrow, then that's perfect for Cincinnati. And for Andy Dalton, this makes a ton of sense too. When you're looking around the NFL, there are barely any QB spots available, at least in terms of starting jobs. And you would pretty much have to be a backup if you're Andy Dalton. And you really want to do that somewhere else. Why not just stay there in Cincinnati for 1 year? You get the mentor, the #1 overall pick. If you do a good job and Burrow is a stud right off the bat, there should be a ton of jobs available next year. If you're Andy Dalton, you're probably only getting one more shot at a starting job, either this year or the next, because last year he wasn't particularly too impressive. A 16-14 touchdown interception ratio. The Bengals were terrible last year. I know the circumstances weren't perfect, but there was no excuse for what we saw from Andy Dalton last year. He was so bad, he got benched for Ryan Finley. It wasn't very impressive. So either you're getting a starting job next year, or this year, or the next year if you're Andy Dalton. But the last thing you want if you're Andy Dalton is getting traded to the Los Angeles Chargers, per se, who don't really have an offensive line. And if you look washed and terrible there, you're probably never getting a starting job ever again. So if you're Andy Dalton, stay there in Cincinnati for 1 year, mentor Joe Burrow, and then the next year there should be a ton of starting jobs. You should probably be able to get a starting job next year if you're Andy Dalton based on resume. Because we're looking at the New York Jets. Depending on what we see from Sam Darnold this year, he may be gone next year. There might be an opening job in New York. Where we look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, we don't know how Minshew Mania is going to pan out for them next year. When we're looking at some of the older quarterbacks, Drew Brees could retire from the Saints after this year. Same thing with Phillip Rivers. Even Ben Roethlisberger could potentially retire. And we don't know what's going to happen with Tom Brady. Obviously, he signed a 2-year deal, but if things don't look too good in Tampa Bay this year, it's definitely not out of the stretch of the imagination that Tom Brady could retire. So if you're Andy Dalton, stick it out 1 more year, help mentor Joe Burrow, and then next year see if you could get a starting job. I think it makes sense for all sides, and I think that it makes sense, especially for the Bengals, to keep a guy like Andy Dalton 1 more year, help mentor Joe Burrow. I think it's a perfect deal. I think that they shouldn't really stress out trying to get a trade done, because with Andy Dalton's $17 million salary, no one's paying a backup QB that much money. So I think that stick it out, and it's just perfect in my opinion. But I mean, we'll see how it goes. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Please like and subscribe. We'll be writing more NFL and NBA hot takes as the season goes on. Have a good day. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Jensen Sports. See y'all later.